A good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Hope everybody is doing well. It is my honor and pleasure to once again deliver the pre-Shabbos drasha. And first I want to start with thanking our sponsors. Art Boyers, in memory of his mother, Sarah Boyerzal. Her yahrzeit is the 28th of Iyar. Bev Morris and Art Boyers in honor of Dr. Theo Heller. Rona and Aaron Lerner in honor of Yoni Broth as he graduates from Yeshiva University and for receiving Yeshiva College's Excellence in Talmud Award and the Sai Sim School of Business's Service and Character Award. Mazel tov. Judd Milgram to mark the 14th yahrzeit Dalet Sivan of his father Martin Milgram, Meir ben Mordechai Berzal. Audrey and Neil Siegel, Debbie and Jeff Weinstein and family for the yahrzeit of Hannah and Sue Weinstein, mother and grandmother. Also, a very special mazel tov to Akiva Kugler, who celebrated his bar mitzvah this week. We're very sorry that we couldn't celebrate together in shul, but wanted to wish you a very, very special mazel tov to you, Akiva, to your parents, and to the entire extended Kugler family. Mazel tov, mazel tov. So, we have a lot on our plate for this drasha today. We have Shavuos approaching. We have, of course, the weekly Parsha, Parshas Bamidbar, and of course today is Yom Yerushalayim. So it's a busy drasha. And I want to start the conversation with a Mishnah that I believe we're all familiar with, Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos tells us that Shimon HaTzadik, Haya Mishayari Knesset HaGedola, Shimon HaTzadik, was one of the remnants of the men of the Great Assembly. And Hu Haya Omer, very famous, Al Shlosha Dvarim Ha'olam Omer, the world stands on three pillars, Al HaTorah v'Al HaAvoda v'Al Gemilas Chasadim. It stands on Torah, it stands on Avoda, and it stands on Gemilas Chasadim. The Maharal in his commentary to Pirkei Avos gives us a fascinating insight into this Mishnah. He says that these three things, Torah, Avoda, and Gemilas Chasadim, actually correspond to an individual's personal responsibilities. Is that avoda is a person's responsibility towards God. Bein adam l'makom. How do I interact? How do I engage? How do I exercise my responsibilities to God? That's through worship. What about man and fellow man? Bein adam l'chavero. So that is gemilas chasadim, acts of kindness. I engage other people. I do kind acts towards other people. But what about being adam la'atzmo? How do I refine myself? How do I address my responsibilities towards myself as an individual? To that, says the Maharal, we have Torah. Because Torah elevates a person. Without Torah, we're just physical beings. Torah takes us to the next level. It opens a new dimension to us, something that otherwise we would have no connection to. It's a whole new spiritual reality. We can connect to God. We can connect to the divine. We can access spirituality. It elevates our entire existence to something beyond our mere physical existence. And therefore, Torah speaks to the Bein Adam La'atzmo. And the Maharal develops this farther. He says, we all know that there are three cardinal sins with respect to which the rule is Yihareg va'al ya'avor, that one is obligated to give up his life and not to transgress these three sins. And what are they? The three sins are Giloy Arayos, immorality, Shvichos Damim, murder, and Avodah Zara, idol worship. And explains the Maharal that those three cardinal sins correspond to our three primary focuses, our three primary responsibilities. He says Avodah Zara corresponds to Bein Adam L'Makom. In other words, my responsibility is to worship God. The greatest sin with respect to worship of God is to worship another God. That's the ultimate disrespect, the ultimate bizayon. When it comes to a person, I have responsibilities to a fellow man. What's the worst thing I could possibly do to my fellow man? Shvichus damim, murder. Doesn't get worse than that. And what about with respect to an individual, Bein Adam La'atzmo? To that the Maharal says immorality. Why? Because that's giving in to the mere physical existence. It's not living an elevated spiritual life. It's giving into our animalistic side, if you will. And therefore, that's the ultimate disrespect to Bein Adam La'atzmo. It's the ultimate lack of avoda. And Torah is there to refine that. Torah is there to allow us to achieve higher spiritual heights, to become incredible human beings on a whole new level, a whole new dimension, the spiritual dimension connected to God. And with this idea, we can understand a kind of perplexing Gemara. The Gemara tells us that one of the names given to Har Sinai is Har Chorev. The Gemara says, why? Because it brought a chorv la'olam, it brought destruction to the world. Torah brought destruction to the world. That's an unbelievable thing. We think of Torah as being an incredible remedy. It's our connection to God. What do you mean it brought destruction to the world? There's no destruction in Torah. It's all good. It's perfect. What does this mean? So I heard from my father, who I believe said this in the name of Rav Moshe Shapiro Zatzal, the following idea. That the concept is that certain times we have a new development, and we're very exposed to this type of thing, a new technology that by its very mere existence renders everything before it effectively obsolete, effectively second rate. For example, the car to the horse and buggy. Once you can travel by car, the horse and buggy is just, think more modern terms, e-commerce to retail. Well, I can have one-click ordering, and all of a sudden something shows up at my door, and it didn't take more than 30 seconds. I mean, who wants to schlep to a store and go and come and walk through aisles? Why? It's a whole better system. Uber to taxis. Call a taxi. Wait, when's it going to come? I can click a button, trace exactly when it'll be here. Somebody shows up, takes me around like a king. It's just the whole taxi system is complete disruption. Complete market disruption. So too, explains Rav Moshe Shapiro, the Torah was a complete disruption of humanity in the sense that it created a new dimension. And once the spiritual component, the ability to connect to God, was present in the world, the mere physical existence was second rate, was almost obsolete in a sense. Not because Torah was bad, but because it was so good. And therefore it brought a chorv la'olam. It disrupted the natural order of things. It completely changed priorities. It completely opened new vistas, new dimensions that we didn't realize were possible. Levels of existence that up until that point hadn't been imagined. And that's this idea of Torah. Now, every year, virtually every year, we learn Parshas Bamidbar prior to Shavuos. There are a few exceptions, but almost always, Parshas Bamidbar is learned immediately prior to Shavuos. And the question is, what is the connection between Parshas Bamidbar and Shavuos? If you wanted to pick out a parsha from the Torah that had to do with Matan Torah, we have plenty of examples. We have 2 sets of Dibros. I mean, there's a lot in the Torah that has to do with Matan Torah. Parshas Bamidbar doesn't necessarily seem your number one choice. What is the connection? And there's a Ramban, the beginning of Parshas Bamidbar, that provides tremendous insight into the connection between Parshas Bamidbar and Shavuos. And the Ramban tells us, he says that the Mishkan is the idea of taking the Kedusha, taking the holiness that we achieved at Har Sinai, and packaging it, and being able to take it with us. He says that all that holiness that we got at Har Sinai, the connection to God that we received, the continuation of that occurs via Mishkan. And therefore all of the travels and the encampments that all surrounded the Mishkan is really a continuation of, and is a result of, the events of Har Sinai. So it has a very profound connection. The connection being is that this is the continuation of the process. This is the events of Sinai occurred, and the next step is bringing that into Machane Yisrael, bringing that in to our encampment, traveling with it, and encamping with it, and encircling it properly. And there's an interesting thing. The Gemara in the Yerushalmi, in Eruvin, records a dispute that Rashi actually cites in Parshas Ba'aloscha. And the dispute is that we find there was a particular designated spot for each Shevet as to when they encamped, how they encamped. It's referred to as a teva. They had very specific places as to how they encamped surrounding the Mishkan. And the dispute in the Gemara is whether that was true when they traveled as well. Meaning, when they were traveling, did they stay with that same formation and travel in that formation, each shevet in its particular designated spot? Or that was only when they were encamped. But when they were traveling, they traveled, the Gemara says, kikora, like a board. In other words, like a flat line, like a straight line. And this is the dispute. How did they travel? Did they travel in this formation or not? And the question is, what is this based on? There's obviously something very deep here. Klal Yisrael, how they traveled. What is this representative of, and what is this based on? So I saw in an essay from Rebbe Breidowitz, he developed an approach based on a Meshech Chachma. And what I'm presenting here is not the Meshech Chachma. It's not exactly Rebbe Breidowitz's approach, but it's a spin. It's a spin on what they said, but I'm grateful for the ideas. It's in the spirit of In Meshivin Ala Drush. And the concept is that we find that when the Jewish people traveled, they suddenly were no longer focused on Mishkan. In other words, when you're traveling, where are you focused? You're focused on the ultimate goal. You're focused on the destination. And the destination, of course, is Eretz Yisrael. The destination is going to be Makom HaMikdash. The Pasuk tells us that L'shichno Tidrashu Ubasa Shama, is that the ultimate Kedusha is where? L'shichno Tidrashu, seek out God's holiness. Ubasa Shama, and there you should go. In other words, Makom HaMikdash is the ultimate continuation of the Kedusha of Har Sinai. Mishkan is temporary. It's as we travel. But where are we going? We're going to Shichno Tidrashu. We're seeking out God's Kedusha. And therefore, there was a shift in focus from being encamped to traveling. Is while we're in the Midbar, we're focused on Mishkan. But as we begin to travel, we're focused suddenly no longer on Mishkan, but on Makom HaMikdash, on Yerushalayim and Makom HaMikdash. And this speaks, of course, to the centrality of Makom HaMikdash. What Jewish heart doesn't flutter when you hear the words Har Habayit Biyadenu? After many, many, many years of not being able to go to the Makom HaMikdash, finally, during the miraculous 6-day war, we're finally able to go back and to take control of the Har Habayit Biyadenu. Your soul practically leaps from joy when you hear those words. Unbelievable. We finally had the opportunity to go back and to encounter the Kedusha in its place of L'shichno Tidrashu Ubasa Shama. Of there we go. There our hearts have been yearning to go, and finally we're able to do so. Unbelievable celebration of Yom Yerushalayim. And that's true even as they were traveling in the desert. As they were traveling, they were focused on the ultimate destination. Ultimately, on Yerushalayim, on the Makom HaMikdash. But while they were encamped, the focus was on Mishkan. And here's the idea. The idea is that the order of the Shvatim, the order of their encampment, was based on their association with the Kedusha of the Mishkan. It's what we call a derived importance. In other words, certain people are inherently important, certain things have inherent importance to them, and certain things have derived importance. It's kind of like when you court a lower level employee in the hopes of making a connection with the actual decision maker. The lower level employee has derived importance. His job, if he didn't have his job, you wouldn't be taking him out to dinner. That's for sure. So his importance is derived. You're trying to get to something else. His importance is by association with someone else. So too the Shvatim's encampment was with respect to their relationship with Mishkan. And that only holds true as they're focused on Mishkan. And therefore, as they're encamped, you have to have the very specific designated spots, each shevet corresponding to his connection with the avoda, and the avoda in the association with Mishkan. However, when they travel, the focus shifts. The focus is not on Mishkan, the focus is on the ultimate goal. And therefore that derived importance, that derived Seder is no longer there, and they traveled Kikora. They traveled in a straight line. So it's an unbelievable thing. This speaks not only to the continuation of the Kedusha of Har Sinai in Mishkan, but it also speaks to our yearnings, our national yearning, to go to Makom HaMikdash, to go to Yerushalayim, and the celebration which is today of having Har HaBayit B'Yadeinu, having control, and the ability to go and to daven at the Kotel once again. So I think if we put all of these ideas together, the concept of Torah being able to refine us as individuals, the concept of being connected to the continuation of Har Sinai, and the concept of the ultimate concentration of Kedusha is in Makom HaMikdash. Our focus, our connection to spirituality, our connection to God is centralized in Makom HaMikdash. With these thoughts, we can appreciate the connection from Parshas Bamidbar to Shavuos. We can appreciate the significance of the day of Yom Yerushalayim, and we can personally work on ourselves. And even as we're home, and not part of a tzibur for this Shavuos, but we can access and appreciate the message and the idea of Matan Torah on a personal level, and we can engage with Torah and Limud HaTorah, the spirituality and the connection to God that it provides, and refine ourselves so that even Ben Adam La'atzmo, we will be perfected, and we will address our personal responsibilities. And with that, I wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos and a Yom Yerushalayim Sameach, and I hope everybody stays well. Take care.